Stiff, achy, painful wrists. Sounds like you need some wrist pain relief. And in this video, I'm going to teach you my go-to strengthening and stretching daily routine that bulletproofs my wrists and ensures that I never have that painful problem. Let's do it. What's up everyone, Carl here. So you've got some stiff, achy, painful wrists and you want some wrist pain relief. Well, this is the video for you where I'm going to teach you my daily routine that bulletproofs my wrists. Stay tuned towards the end of the video where I'm going to give you a not so super secret advanced wrist mobility and strengthening exercise that I do every single day that not so many people actually do. So as a chiropractor, I see clients every single day where I am manually adjusting them, which means my wrists take the brunt of that force. Now, it's not just chiropractors, physios, osteopaths, people who use their hands in a manual job that actually have wrist-based problems. So the biggest problem that I actually see is desk-based workers, that computer use, manual, moving the mouse, using a phone, sitting at a desk for prolonged periods of time creates these chronic adaptations and disconnections with our wrist and how we actually use our hands. And as a desk-based worker, wrist problems are never something that comes to mind. Everybody thinks about posture, but actually the wrists, when they become painful, will stop you in your tracks. So I'm going to teach you now my go-to three strengthening and stretch. So I'm going to teach you now my go-to three simple strengthening and stretching exercises that ensure my wrists are never a problem and you can be the same. So with all of the exercises that I'm going to teach you in this video, you need to ensure that you're not moving into pain. This should not reproduce painful symptoms. However, you should feel a stretch through the muscles. You may feel a slight pressure in the wrist, especially the first few times that we actually do these exercises. So I'm going to ask you to either use the floor or a table to do these exercises. And the first thing that I want you to do is actually lightly warm up and stretch those problem wrists. So what we can actually do here is we're going to start with our hands flat on the floor or on the flat surface that you're using. Now we're going to place our hands so our fingers are facing away from us. Now we are going to move our body weight over the top of our wrists, which is going to create a light stretch through the wrist into the forearms. Now we're going to repeat this 3 or 4 times, moving nice and slowly, again, not moving into pain. Now from here, we're going to turn our hands sideways. So the fingers are actually going to face sideways away from that midline. And we're going to again move gently up and backwards from this position, creating a nice deep stretch. Now, once we've done 3 to 4 of those movements, we can turn our hands again and our fingers are now going to be facing backwards and towards us. Repeat this 3 to 4 times as we do the same exercise, gently moving forwards and backwards. This one's going to create a deep stretch into that forearm position. Now, the final part of our simple warm-up here is going to be we turn our hands completely over. So the back of our hands is now going to be on the floor. This one can be quite painful, so please go gently and steadily. Now from here, we allow those fingers to point towards our body and we are going to move forwards and backwards, really taking it slowly as we move backwards, as this is going to create that really deep stretch into our forearms. Now finally, as you come up from this final position after 3 to 4 repetitions, what I want you to do is just let those wrists shake and move because they're going to feel a little bit tight where we've put some pressure through them. So in the next exercise, what I need you to do is create an O between your fingers and your thumb. This is where we're going to lightly pinch our fingertips and our thumb together to create this O shape. Now this is not about strength. This is about lightly applying that pressure. Now, from here, what we need to do is we need to have our wrist in a nice neutral position as we make that O with our fingers and our thumb. It's gentle, we're not forcing them together, and we need to extend the wrist slowly. So that's bringing the wrist backwards towards that forearm. And as we do it, we want to ensure that as we do this, we are moving through the wrist. So we're fulcruming through that wrist, creating the bend at the wrist, and then we're going to return from there back to a neutral wrist position, all the while maintaining nice loose fingers. Now, this should give you a gentle stretch, and you should feel some muscles working as you do this. We're going to repeat this upwards of 5 to 10 times, and you can do this a couple of times a day just to ensure that the brain actually starts turning on and moving these muscles in the proper way. If you haven't already done so and you want to support me as a growing YouTuber, you can hit that subscribe button right now to see future content from me. So next we're going to be looking at slow control of the wrist. Now when it comes to wrist movement, a lot of us will find that we actually lose some control of our wrist in certain motions and movements. And that is because we have lost control of those fine movements, which means some of the muscles that actually control wrist movement are either overworking or underworking, creating these dysfunctional movements and excess movement through the wrist. So this one is all about retraining the brain. You can see this dysfunction in action as we extend our fingers. We want our wrist in a nice neutral position with our fingers out. As we extend our fingers up, you may notice that the wrist actually drops down slightly. Now, this is a sign that there is excess movement, and we need to work on that brain to muscle control. Now, what I want you to do again is hold that wrist in a nice neutral position, have those fingers out. We're going to do this really slowly, especially if you start noticing that that wrist does drop down. Now, with this position, we are going to extend our fingers upwards towards the ceiling. If you see that wrist dropping, you need to consciously control and make sure it doesn't drop. We're going to do this very slowly as we move our fingers only, not our wrist. We're controlling that wrist as to ensure that it doesn't drop down any further. We're going to repeat this exercise 5 to 10 times, and we're going to do this at least twice a day to make sure we're working on that brain to body connection. So what is my super secret, not so secret top tip? Well, when I am in work, I have a power ball. So if you haven't seen that, you can see that in the picture right here. The power ball is something that you hold and rotate through the wrist. It works on the intrinsic muscles of the wrist and the hand. It strengthens and stretches at the same time. It warms up all of those joints. I use the power ball every day before I start work to ensure that my wrists are ready to go. So if you're interested in seeing the power ball that I use, you can check the link in the description below. And if you get one, you're going to take your wrist strengthening and stretching mobility routine to the next level. So chances are you are a desk-based worker or are somebody who utilizes their wrist a little more often than they should. Now, if that's the case, then you're probably concentrating on something in front of you. You've almost certainly lost a degree of that neck curve, and we're going to want to try and restore some of that curvature in the neck, which will allow our shoulders to sit back and utilize our arms and wrists in a proper way. If you want to check out a video I've done before, you can see it right here. That's going to tell you how to restore that neck curve in a super simple way. Alternatively, this video might be the one you're looking for. And if you haven't already done so, hit the like, tap subscribe, click the bell icon, do all of those things. I'll see you next time.